Hi, everybody. Let's get this. I always mess this up because I don't normally use.
Over on the top right, there's a slideshow button.
There it is. There's a slideshow button. There it is. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So, welcome everybody. I'm Alejandra Dash. I'm one of the co-leaders of the ASU Digital Accessibility Liaisons. And today we are going to talk about Ally, Blackboard Ally. So are there any announcements that we need to cover today before we begin? Does anybody have any announcements about accessibility or anything like that?
Not from my end.
Yeah, mine neither. So, okay, well, great. And then, well, now that we've got that taken care of, the rest of our agenda is to talk about Ally, and then we'll have an accessibility giveaway. And then at the top of the hour, we'll have an open discussion for 30 minutes about any topics that you wanted to go over. There will be also time for question and answer after our talk today. So, welcome. And we're going to start off with Sean Netzel, our the learning technology manager at ULC's at Learning Enterprise, to talk about Blackboard Ally, the accessibility tool. Sean, do you want to share your screen or should I share the deck?
I'll share my screen because I think I'm going to be tabbing back and forth between the slide deck as well as showing how it works in Canvas in a couple different browsers or different Canvas accounts, actually.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so thank you.
Mhm.
So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. My name, once again, is Sean Netzel. I'm the Learning and Technology Manager for Universal Learner courses. Our program is a little bit unique, so we have to use Ally in our own separate way a lot. So I'm going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between our account as well as the canvas.asu.edu sub-account for Blackboard Ally. Many of you probably know this tool, Blackboard Ally, but it's a really robust tool that should be in all of your courses and all of our courses. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, accessibility tool that is used in LMSs. So I just wanted to talk about this to see how this can work. So for yourself, as well as for your whole course team. So Alejandra, thank you for letting me or helping me put this together. What I want to talk about with Ally today is essentially what Ally is, how you can access it, some of the features and uses for your learners or students. We call them learners at ULC because we don't have enrolled students in our courses. So if you hear me interchangeably talk about learners or students, that's why. So I'll give you kind of the learner or student experience for that, the administrator view and the uses for that, as well as a couple other things that a lot of people don't know about usually, which is the institutional reports, the configuration side of things, which you may or may not have access to, and then a couple of resources or kind of a plethora of resources actually. And then we'll give you a link so you can try it yourself as well. So hopefully that'll be okay. So without further ado, Blackboard Ally, it's called Blackboard Ally because it was with Blackboard and part of that LMS and that company, but it's actually been merged or been bought by Anthology. Everyone still calls it Blackboard Ally though. But really what the tool is, it's a way to help course teams, instructional designers, faculty, learning technologists, anyone who supports a course team and like a course in an LMS to enhance two things, the usability of the course as well as the accessibility of the course content in there. So what's great about it is it makes a lot of the content. It gives you some of the accessibility benefits to make it for students who might have some kind of learning or physical disability, needs assistive technology. But with the usability side, it really helps for all students. And there's a lot of features in there that all students can and do benefit from when you remediate and fix some of the issues that are in courses with Ally. So the benefits of it, as you can see here, is that it makes course content much easier to remediate. This is especially true with images. It also does it with diagnosing issues. So whatever issues you have accessibility-wise with your content, it'll give you a clear breakdown and give you some feedback of how, what the issues are and often how to fix them. Some of which you can fix those in Ally. Others you might have to fix separately. Like if it's a file, you have to go to the original file and then fix it outside of the course or outside of Ally. It also gives you a clear standard or benchmark. So it'll give you an accessibility score, which is a percentage, and it gives you a benchmark of where you're at percentage-wise. Does anybody know what the QM Quality Matters standard is for accessibility?
Are you talking
Kind of a
about
quiz.
standard 8?
Yes, for accessibility standards for the percentage of like accessibility in the course.
For Quality Matters, best practice is about 85% is what we look for when we evaluate courses for accessibility.
Yeah, so it's 85% is the benchmark for it according to Quality Matters. So it's something that you really want to strive to be as good as possible, but it's really very difficult to be perfect and have 100%. So don't be hard on yourself or your course team if you don't have 100% accessibility with all of your content. It's a goal, but it's a goal that is kind of always slightly out of reach at times, because as you add or change course content in a course, it's always a game that you're trying to keep up with. So 85% is really what you're striving for at the minimum for these. The licensing and access on here as well. So this is something that's provided on a university scale. It's through the provost. So everyone should have access to this built into your course through canvas.asu.edu. And how to access that. This should be something that is in your course right here. So on the left right here, you can see the course navigation bar. And this is, I'm using the canvas.asu.edu side. You can see in any course on the left, you should have this Ally dashboard available right here. So it's in your course navigation bar. If it's not there, you should be able to access it. Let me see. Can you see, are you still seeing my slide deck, or are you seeing the Canvas page now?
Canvas page.
Okay, perfect. So this is just a little sandbox that I'm using right here for the purposes of this demo. I'm not showing a real course right now, but in our course, you could see, or in our case of Canvas, you could see it's called Ally Course Accessibility Report. In the canvas.asu.edu account, it's going to be called Ally Dashboard. But if it's not here, you can go into settings at the bottom, and then under navigation, that's where you can turn it off or on. So it should be, I would recommend always having it turned on. I can't think of any reason why you would want this disabled. But if you don't have it here, it should be down here, and then you just right click on the 3 buttons and it would have an enable function here. So that's essentially where you find this in your course. For the student experience, really for the most part, students shouldn't notice anything at all. It really should just be kind of incognito. So it should be incognito because everything should be kind of remediated. All the extra features are really on the administrative side. There's one major thing that I want to talk about with the student experience and the features though, which is alternative formats. So with alternative formats, anytime you have course content in there, there's a button that you can click that shows all these different functions of ways you can, students can access that content different ways. So you can kind of see right here on this part that there's tagged PDF, HTML, there's a whole plethora of them, of different formats. However, this is going to vary depending on the course page. So let me actually go into my little dummy setup account right here, just to show you an example. So this is just a course page here that I've set up just to have multimodal content in here, so you can kind of see how it works. You can see that we've got some text on this HTML page. There's a table here. There's an image. There is a PDF that is attached on here and embedded with the inline preview, as well as a Word doc on here as well. So by having all of these things on here, when students access this, it's really hard to see, but this little button right here next to the title of the header of the page is the alternative formats function. So it's very hard to see. I usually will really point it out. This is what it looks like. So it's the Ally logo essentially with this arrow down. So with the alternative formats, you can see that there's tagged PDF. Sometimes it'll say tagged PDF. Other times it'll say OCR'd PDF. I'm not sure how you actually get one version of or the other, but usually what I see is tagged PDFs in here, which is great because you can get something that is a Word doc, click the alternative formats button, and then it'll kind of remediate that for you and turn it into a tagged PDF. The thing about that is if you have a tagged PDF and you click download, you really want to make sure that you check it yourself to make sure it's tagged appropriately, because it's all automated in this case. So these are all the different versions right here. I'll go over some of these a little bit more in detail. But with this accessibility page right here, because we have all these different multimodal functions on this little test page, if I click alternative formats on here, you'll notice that it has the actual page, the HTML page here in Canvas. I can click on this one, and then it gives me the different options for the HTML page. So it can download it in EPUB, which a lot of our students use actually. You'd be surprised how many students might use EPUB versions of the HTML pages. Electronic Braille. This is something that downloads and you have to have the assistive technology to use, so I can't demo that right now. There's the audio version. So if you click on this and hit download, it'll usually pop up on the right. So this actually popped up very quickly. Usually it might say it takes a couple minutes, but because the content's very, it's not very robust on here, it's going to have a PDF. Are you able to hear the MP3?
No.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to play it for you, but essentially it downloads an MP3 file, which it can read all of it to you. So it's not very robust. It doesn't use AI. It reads it in that kind of robotic voice. But it is a way that you can download that MP3. It'll play everything that's on here. As long as everything's accessible, it'll play in the correct order. So you can use that function for the audio version. Beeline Reader, this is a pretty unique feature in terms of it's the enhanced version for easier and faster screen reading. So I'll download that really quickly and I'll show you what that looks like. So it opens up into its own HTML page right here. And you can see that it's the exact same content in HTML on here, but it color codes everything. So this is something that a lot of people will say that would make it so it's easier to read. It can read faster because of it, because everything's color coded on here. And you can even see there's color grading that changes on here. So right here, it says the team building exercise. It starts off in kind of a dark red, and then it turns to a lighter color. There's different options here. So you can have it bright, dark, blue, grays, night. So there's a dark mode. Not sure how accessible this is because it's a white text on a light blue background, but this is something that some students will say that has actually worked to be a little bit better for them, easier on their eyes and faster to read and skim and scan through. So that's the Beeline Reader. The Immersive Reader, so I'll click and download that one as well. This one also goes into an HTML page, which it shows in just a clear white and black, white background with black text. This one's really cool because it puts it in a much larger font. It has a lot more spacing on it, so it's a little bit easier to read, easier on your eyes. But there's also a lot of features right here. So there's text preferences right here. You can change the text very easily, just up and down. You can increase the spacing or decrease the spacing, turn that feature off. It's on by default. You can also change the font in here. Comic Sans apparently is one of the regular ones. There's different themes, like a dark theme. If the white background is too bright on you, you can turn it on to a dark theme. There's also the source formatting. You can turn that off as well. So this might be a little bit different to look at right here. You can also highlight text. But the word day comes up on here. It shows pictures, like the calendar, for example. I can click schedule and it shows pictures of the schedule. I could even have a button that will read the word to me. And then there's also kind of built in, there is a audio version as well at the bottom here. So I'm not sure if this will play. So you might not be able to hear that, but as I was playing that, it was actually highlighting each word it was saying at the same time. And then if you go into the voice settings on here, you can change the voice speed. So if it's a little bit too fast, you can slow it down. If it's too slow and you want it to be faster, you can adjust the speed as well. It's all the way up to 2.5. And then you can even choose a voice for it. So you can use the standard default female voice, or there's also a male voice as well. So you can change this. This is what I usually recommend because this one's way more robust, has a lot more options and features for it. And this is a really common one for students who just want better usability. So you can read along for you, you can listen to it and turn away. There's a lot of different features here. And there's grammar ones too. So you can actually, for students who might struggle with parts of speech or syllables, it'll actually go syllable by syllable on here. You can actually even highlight parts of speech, nouns, adjectives, whatever you like. So there's a whole lot of robust features within this one. There's also kind of the line focus, similar to using like an EPUB, like a Kindle, so you can change the spacing on here. So it's just, focuses on one line by line. You can have a couple lines or the default where it just shows 5 lines on here, which I'm struggling to navigate between. There we go. And then the picture dictionary is what I showed off before. So that's turned on by default. The translate feature, that is not turned on. So this is a function, and this is something I'll get to later on when I go to the configuration part. But in our instance of Canvas, we don't have the translated version turned on. And that's why right here, a learner cannot choose a different language to do this. But this is really the one that I recommend the most, is the immersive reader. So these are all accessible through here. And that's just for that one page. But as you notice, there's the files right here. So I do have this academic integrity PDF. If I click on that, it has the same functions as on here, but instead of, because it's already a PDF, you can see there's the HTML version right here. So if I click on that, it'll just open the HTML version of it, all the other versions, and then this Word doc right here as well. So if I click on this one, it's the same thing, but this time I can click tagged PDF, and then it'll download a automatically tagged PDF with that. So this is great for kind of instant remediation, but once again, it's something that you want to check yourself to make sure it was accurate. So those are really the main things. Kathy, do you have a question?
Yeah, Mike, I'm not an instructional designer or an instructor, so this might be a dumb question, but it seems to me like most people who have a disability are going to already have the technology to do like the immersive reader stuff, changing the font, dark mode, things like that. So are you saying that there's that many students who like don't necessarily use assistive technology who come in and are using these tools?
I mean, from my perspective, it's really like we often don't know who our learners are. So we have a lot of learners who
Right.
may or may not go to sales, may or may not have assistive technology, so this is all kind of at the front. So, even if a learner hasn't met with anyone from sales or us, or isn't really prepared for that, we want to make sure the content is right here available for them. Yeah, I don't know if, did you have any other, did
No,
that answer your question at all, or?
No, I think it's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, thank you. But yeah, so this is really, for the most part, what learners usually will see. And the thing is a lot of learners, they won't even notice this button. So this is something that I really recommend having some kind of resource in your course or in your program that kind of teaches or primes students how to use this. Because when I first started using Ally, I would see this button and I'm like, what the heck is that? I wasn't sure what it is. So from a learner perspective, it's really good to kind of show them and have a resource so that they are utilizing this. But outside of that, if I click into student view, you'll notice, you'll notice that it's locked, and I did not change the settings in the course for that. But if I were to go into student view for this, everything would look exactly identical. The only difference is you would not have these little icons right here, these little accessibility score icons, which is what I was going to talk about next in here. So the administrative side of things, it looks almost exactly the same as I was really just showing you. It's the same page. The main difference is that each piece of content that you have on a course page should have this accessibility score or meter. It looks like a meter in here. So there's 4 different versions of it. So it'll give you a red, kind of low score. If it's anywhere between 0 to 36%, that really should be something that's considered a severe issue that needs to be addressed. There's also medium. It's kind of rare to have medium ones. They're usually not really accessible at all, or they're pretty good or perfect. And then there's high if it's 67 to 99%, and then perfect is 100%. This usually will take place on images, any documents or media, as well as text. And then this is what it looks like right here. So if you see this little accessibility score, if you hover over that little icon on there, it should give you what the accessibility score is, and it'll say click to improve. So I'll go ahead and show that really quickly on here. This is the same page on here. So there's this image on the bottom left. It says accessibility score, click to improve. If I click on that, it'll open the actual asset itself right here, and it'll open a preview of it. So it'll show that, but really the important thing is on the right here. So right here, it gives you the name of the file. It's a PNG file. It says it's 25%. And then it gives this thing called instructor feedback right here. So it says this image does not have a meaningful description. And in the description, you can tell this is just the file name. It just says metericon.png. So what you want to do is change this to an image description. So does anyone have a suggestion on what this should be for an image description to make this better?
I would indicate what the words are. Accessibility score, low, click to improve.
Accessibility score,
Low, click to improve.
low, click to improve. And then maybe like with accessibility icon display. So this is really like a learned skill of how to write image descriptions as well as alt text. I know we've talked about that before. This is always something that you can always, it's really hard to be perfect with this. But as I change this right here, I can click save. And immediately, that's the only issue there was with it, was the image description. And now that we've added that description, it changes to 100% perfect. And then when I close that, now the icon itself changes, and it's as I hover over it, it says accessibility score perfect. So images are really the most easy assets you can fix. So when you do that, you can fix it all right there. You don't have to go into the files. You don't have to do anything like that. This will instantly just remediate it and fix it for you right there in the course. So these are the easiest ones. As I scroll down though, you'll notice this academic integrity PDF that I have here. This also has a low score. So if I click on this, this is only 5%. So this is very low, and it's 5%. And the main issue, it says this PDF is untagged. So untagging, having a tagged PDF, that's a whole separate topic. However, that is something that is a huge accessibility issue. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to fix it right here, right? So I can't just immediately tag it in this. So I'd have to go to the actual file, and then I'd have to do it myself. You can notice though, there's also this button that says all issues. So if I click on that, you'll see that PDF tagging isn't the only issue. That's the biggest issue, because you can see it's 94% that it'll increase it to if I tag it. However, there's also a couple other issues that are a little bit more minor, but these are still issues. The PDF doesn't have a language set to it. It also doesn't even have a title. So we have this on here. It looks like there's headers on here, but this didn't have the actual title set to it. I can click on each of these. It's still going to tell me to upload a version of it with the title. So it'll tell me how to remediate it, but I have to do this within the file itself. And then you can still re-upload it right here. So that's the good thing, is you have to change the file itself, but you can go in here and you can just change it immediately. So you don't have to go through the course files and very granularly. This will do that for you. Same thing with this one right here. With the Word doc, you'll notice this one is a medium score. So this is one of those ones, if I click on this, it's 47%. So not too bad. It has some issues with it though. So with this one, it's the same thing. The main thing is the images don't have descriptions in them. So this is a user guide that I made that I kind of based a lot of this presentation on, is having these images. So I need to go in there and I need to put in image descriptions for these. So this is the main thing, but also you can click all issues and you can see what all the issues are and how that'll improve the score. This is some of the best uses on a kind of day-to-day basis for using Ally in your courses. Before I move on to other aspects of this, does anyone have any questions about anything?
I pointed out, I knew that somebody from the Canvas, the main ASU Canvas team, I had asked them how many file formats do students because like I said, I'm not an instructor, so how many do they actually download? And he told me in spring of 2023, they had over 100,000 alternative file formats downloaded by students.
Yeah.
So the students are loving this.
Yeah, and again, that's one of those things that we often, as instructors, instructional designers, people kind of on the back end, or actually people even in the courses, you often don't see how much usage gets how much usage there is of all of these formats. But that's something I'll get to, is how you can pull those reports and see, hey, are my students actually using this tool? And not only that, how they're using it. So you can see which alternative formats they're using, which ones they're really not using, which courses they're using it for. So that's something that I'll show you guys soon. But yeah, as far as the administrator features here, the top part I showed you, that's called the instructor feedback tool. So this instructor feedback tool, it does just give default language in here for what's wrong with it. That's something I'll get to that you can even customize. So if you have faculty who you want to be fixing or remediating things themselves and kind of train them a little bit to do it, you can give them a little bit more information here and show them how to do that themselves. So this is also customizable. And then the immediate fixes, that's what I mentioned with like the image description, the alt text, things like that, where you mostly just want to change. It'll default to the title, but you can change that yourself here. The other thing I should point out actually that I did mention with those images at the bottom, if it's just like an icon that's there for decorative purposes, you don't have to put an image description for it. You can just click right here, indicate image is decorative. Click on that, it'll be fixed, and it'll signal to the learner, this is just a decorative icon, and then it'll move on. The other feature of this I was going to mention, this is a little bit more complex. This is more if you're an instructional designer, definitely for you. The WYSIWYG content, if you're not sure what WYSIWYG is, it's what you see is what you get. So what you see is what you get, the WYSIWYG. This is definitely something that you'll be using in the rich text editor. So when you're in the rich text editor of a Canvas page, on the very top right of the rich text editor, you can see all the tools here, and then it usually has the score right here for what the accessibility score is. So I'll show you briefly on this one. So if I go into edit on the Canvas page I was just showing you, hopefully it loads. There it is. So because I remediated that one page, you could see the Ally, it's automatically scanning this as I'm typing or editing on the page. And now it says 98 accessibility score. That's surprisingly high considering the assets are in it. But again, it's what you see is what you get. So it's focusing on the stuff you see right here. So all of the text and HTML that I have on here, this is 98% remediated. I can click on this. And it's 98%. That other 2% is because I don't have headings listed on here. So I have the headings changed on this. So this is a little bit different with the headings on here. There's an issue with this that Alejandra and I were talking about. While you can use this, and it's definitely something to look at as you're editing or changing or adding content in your HTML rich text editor here, you'll notice that that is 98%, and it only gave me that one issue. But if you notice at the bottom right here, this is the Canvas accessibility checker. It's its own built-in separate one. This one says 3, so let's click on that. And you'll notice here, this one, it has 3 separate issues in here. First, it says there's an issue where there's no caption. So there's no caption. Table should have a caption describing the context of the table. That's an issue here that's not done. I can click next. You can see there's no table header set. So my table is not remediated at all. I need to change the header table or the table headers here. And then also it noticed that in my list right here, I was not using an actual list. I was not using the list functionality here. This is just typed out. So when you're actually having your text edited on here or you're writing a list, you want to make sure you use the list function right here, because that's what it'll tell screen readers or assistive technology or alternative formats that it's an actual list. So this caught that. So this is definitely something you don't want to rely 100% on Ally for this WYSIWYG content. I would really recommend look at the Canvas one, because the Ally, in this case, it missed some of those issues. So that Canvas accessibility check was actually really good for this WYSIWYG content. So I definitely recommend that. Any questions about the WYSIWYG content? This one, in my opinion, that's a little bit confusing at times. Anything else about this before I move on? Okay. So the next thing I was going to get into is what Kathy alluded to earlier, which is the institutional reports. So the institutional reports, these are not in the courses directly. This is going to be on the sub-account level. So this is something that you may or may not have access to. So the people who probably should have access to these are the instructional designers of the courses, anyone who's a learning technologist or some kind of learning technology specialist or deals with the kind of LMS administration, as well as possibly data analysts on your team, people who need to analyze the data for how courses are run, anything accessibility purposes, things like that. What's good about this is kind of like what Kathy mentioned, is this is really good for aggregating data for courses. And you can aggregate it based off term, month, academic year. You could do it by department, and you can do it by the issues that are in the courses, like the accessibility issues in your courses. And you can see I took this from the Canvas .asu.edu instance, because in this instance, which I was looking at ASU Online's, it says Ally right here. So for Ally, that's what it is for that. For your case, in the ULC version, our version, if I was to go into it here, it's a little bit different. Ours directly just says Ally configuration. So even though it says on here Ally, that is how you go into the configuration, or actually the institution report. Sorry, this one, institution report. So when you go into the institution reports, let me actually switch screens because I want to show you a really impressive version of it, which is EdPlus's version. So ASU Online EdPlus. Hopefully, can you see my screen here? It looks like a Firefox screen, and there should be like a graph with a bunch of lines. So this is what it looks like when you go into this. So you may or may not have access to this, but again, if you're an instructional designer or a learning technologist, you hopefully do have access to this. But you can see it has all the different terms lined up right here. And then you can see the score for these. So there's an overall score, as well as the green, which is the WYSIWYG content. The WYSIWYG content is what you put in, so this should always be really high, the score. There's the files here, which is this little blue dotted line. The files are usually lower because those are the hardest things to remediate. Anytime you have PDFs, slide decks, those are the ones that always are so complicated, tons of issues. So that's always going to be kind of the lower ones, and then the WYSIWYG stuff should be on top. And then you can see the overalls in the middle. Does anyone notice any kind of pattern or trend that's really unique about this line? Hopefully you can see it okay, but there's something I noticed looking at this, why I'm showing theirs and not our accounts. That's kind of cool about theirs, if you can tell. It starts around 2020, like right here. So I'll just go ahead and tell you for the sake of time. So you notice the files here, they're always a much lower score than the overall content. But then suddenly around 2020, right here, and then all the way up until the present, you can see that that file line is just, it meets the overall score. So the overall score is aligned perfectly with this. So it seems to indicate this is probably because of the pandemic, actually, when we transitioned more to being online. It looks like they actually went through their courses and started fixing lots of their content, saying, hey, these files need remediation. They need to be fixed for accessibility. And it looks like they actually went and fixed a lot of this. And that's why now that this line meets the same as the overall score. So this can be used as a way to kind of diagnose your courses and look kind of historically for the context to see, are your courses getting better? Are they getting worse? Is there a way, like we did this huge remediation initiative. We want to see, did it actually work? Did it actually affect our courses and the accessibility of them? So you can you see that as you just go through this line right here. And EdPlus, they have tons of courses. So this is a very, very detailed, bar chart right here. You can change this by term, by academic year, by month. There's a lot of different features for this, for the overview. You can scroll down. This is also pretty impressive. They're not at 85% for their overall program, but 70% is really high for ASU EdPlus. Has tons and tons of courses. You can see that tens of thousands of pieces of content, all their courses. And then if you scroll down further, it parses it into the individual issues. So images not having a description, that's usually the highest. You can see, what fixes need to be done. You can break it down into severe issues, major issues, minor issues. You can also go click here. I'm not going to click here because it'll show individual courses. I don't want to single out individual courses. But if I click on here, it'll show the individual courses and their accessibility level, very similar to this, a long list of all these. So this is really good. If you manage a program of courses, you can check all of your program's courses or your department's courses in one fell swoop for accessibility by using this. And then this usage report, this is exactly what Kathy mentioned, where she could see all the different learner downloads on here. So I'll actually show that right now. For these usage reports, it's very difficult to see this here because I'd have to export it. They have tons of files, but I'll just show you really quickly on our end. I'll go back to the PowerPoint right here. Are you able to see the PowerPoint again? Is that showing up?
Yeah, no, I see I
The
guess it's
institutional usage reports? Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it should be. I'll bring it back up. So I wasn't sure if it was. So yeah, this institutional usage reports right here. So this is what it looks like when you download it. So you can see right here, I just pulled this today from our Universal Learner course program. So it says March 17th, today's March 20th. So it is a little bit behind. This was the latest day I can do it. So it takes a couple of days for it to kind of get into Ally's system for the data analytics. But you can see here, I just chose this date range. You can choose like your session, you can choose whatever you want, but just for the sake of, having something that's readable and digestible, I just chose this month. So March 1st to March 17th, you can see how many students have actually launched the alternative formats window, the total number of downloads, the conversion rate, that's how many actually did convert it into a different format, the total downloads. You could actually see all of this right here. And then this is part of the same report. I just parsed it for the sake of screenshots right here. You can see all the different downloads by type. So you could see like, oh, for our students this past month since Spring B has started, a lot of students are downloading the EPUB version, or they're taking the PDFs and changing them to HTML. So you can see all the different versions that are being used right here by type, which is really cool. And if you did this, our program, I just chose it for a small sliver of courses. If it's something like Ed Plus or something like Kathy Marks mentioned, you could have tons and tons of robust data on here, like way greater sample sizes to see for this and how learners are using it. I blurred out the course names right here, but you could see, we have 43 courses where alternative formats were used. I hit a lot of the rows, so not all 43 are showing right here. But you can see on a course level, it'll show the course code, the course name, how many downloads are used. So some courses, you might have students using it more than others, but you could see all this stuff very granularly. And it really is good because, this is a really expensive tool, really robust tool. And if you really want to justify the cost and usage of it, this is how you do it. So, and that's what we have to do because we have to pay for our own instance of Ally. So by doing that, I can go to my leadership and I can say, hey, our students are using this. This is how they use it. This is how accessible it is. This is how it's being used. So this is not a tool that's just kind of in the background that is only for administrators. So this really works in a way that you can get to kind of get buy-in to keep using this tool. So that's just the main usage, I would say, for the institutional reports right here. So let me go back into this. Any questions about the institutional report side of things?
I just have to say that this is really, really such a nice tool to use. And Sean is right for the usage case. I know it's an expensive tool, but it's really worth the students and the learners' while to actually, to keep the tool. And then I can say from the instructional designer perspective, I'll turn my camera on. I can say from the instructional designer perspective that it's really helpful for me to be able to see an organized output, an organized report, fix this, like it's very straightforward. So hopefully this provided more of a background on how to use this tool.
Yeah, and the good thing too is the way I always justify it with our leadership is that, yeah, it's an expensive tool, but you're also saving lots of time with your instructional designers, your learning technologists. So instead of manually doing this very slowly and taking so much of their time, this saves so much more of their kind of labor hours so that you're not wasting time doing this. They're actually able to build other things. So with this other part, the last thing I was going to show you on the institutional reports right here is you can even see it on a department level. So we don't really use department level aspects for our courses for the most part. Most of our courses are just universal learner courses. But if you did, you could see we do have a couple different ones. We don't really use this, designate these, but if you do in your courses, when you make a course and put it in like a department to group them together, you can group them together and then you can have a report just for this group of courses. But yeah, super useful. This is what I definitely recommend if you're that data analyst person or you're that person who wants to see the usage and see how it works with how your learners are using it essentially. The other part right here is this configuration piece. This is probably even more limited. So this is something also on the sub-account level. For the most part, it really shouldn't even be instructional designers who have access to this. It maybe should be your director of instructional design or your senior instructional designer. your learning technologist, senior, or whoever's in charge of all of your accounts, they are the person who should have access to this configuration side right here. So I didn't show it on the other side, but when I looked into the canvas.edu one, I don't even have access to that one. I do for our case for Universal Learner courses, and it says Ally configuration. But with this is a little bit useful for just getting it set up and changing some of the features. So you can kind of enable or disable Ally in courses. You can have it so it automatically will be enabled in all future courses. You could look at the different alternative formats and turn those off and on, which I'll show you because we do that, as well as customize the instructor feedback. And there's a couple developer options. So in here as well, we're at the sub account for this for our ULCs. And then I click into Ally configuration. You see all the courses it's enabled in, and we have it where it's automatically just, we want it enabled in everything. Like I can't even think of a reason why you would not want this enabled in your courses. Maybe if it's like a dev shell or a sandbox or something, you kind of don't care, possibly. If someone has a really good reason of why you would not want this enabled in a course, I would love to hear it. So please speak up if that's the case. But this is a really good way to do it. And you can see we do have some courses listed here. You can turn them off on an individual level if you want. You can check by term for doing this as well. For the help settings, this is actually what I was talking about earlier with the feedback. So if you have an issue and there's an issue with like a PDF, and instead of just saying, hey, this PDF's untagged, you might have an instructor who's like, I don't know what that means, untagged. So you might want to provide custom feedback or custom help here. And then you can actually change the messaging in here to let them know a little bit more information. So you could say the PDF's untagged, and you can even put, please reach out to senior instructional designer Alejandra Dash. Oh, okay, I don't know what this is. Let me reach out to my instructional designer. They'll help me with this. So you can provide more custom feedback here. By default, though, this is what it does. And Blackboard Ally, they do have good feedback for this. So I usually just leave this on. I would only change this option if you really kind of know what you're doing and really want something specific in there. Same thing goes for the alternative formats. You can kind of change some of the help for this. This is for students. So if students are not sure what Beeline Reader is, or they need help with a specific thing, there is default help in here, but you can also change this as well. So it gives a custom message. I'm not really sure. Again, I feel like I would not be confident in changing that. So unless, once again, if you're really kind of an expert and there's some very specific use case that you would want to change this to provide custom help, then do that. Otherwise, I would really just leave it up to their documentation here, because Blackboard Ally does have good documentation and it forwards to their pages for the alternative formats. But this is where you can change some of the feedback and help. With the features as well, this is the one I mentioned where you'll notice these are all the alternative formats, and we have translated versions turned off. That's why we couldn't translate that one that I showed you earlier. So if I were to turn this on, then you would be able to have an HTML version that is translated. Some courses might say, hey, we want to make sure all of our courses, students have like a minimum IELTS score or TOEFL score, a minimum English proficiency. So they want to make sure this is turned off. But this is up to the program's discretion to do that. We have it turned off. There's a couple other things. I'm not really sure of the score indicator in all courses for admin that's disabled. A couple little things here. I'm not even sure what this data integration is, to be honest, but this is default turned off. But you can change these as you please. And then there's two other features here. This is really for learning technologists. When they do the integration, this is where they put the developer key. And if you use Vimeo to host your videos, you can also have this configured so Vimeo can be accessed through Ally. So you can check the remediation as well for Vimeo. But these are just kind of the basic stuff. This one's not as useful. I really recommend the institution report configuration. This is just for people who are setting it up and you're kind of LMS administrators. And then, yeah, the last couple things, there's a ton of resources we have right here. Alejandra helped me kind of compile these and categorize these, so thank you. If you're an instructor or instructional designer, these are some of the main things you might want to check out. For learners or students, there's ones about alternative formats, some LMS help, frequently asked questions. Same goes for the administrators right here. And there's a few things for everyone to check. The Ally accessibility checklist is helpful. This book of Ally is really just kind of stories, like success stories of using Ally. So if you ever need to get kind of buy-in to adopt this tool or continue using it for price purposes, stuff like this is really helpful. But yeah, this is pretty much all the resources in this. And then the last thing is I really recommend, and Alejandro and I really recommend, try this for yourself. If you've never done this before in your course and you have access to these things, we did create this little Google form right here. So this isn't a quiz. This is completely optional. This is really just something that I would recommend. Choose a course, see if you can, practice using it. When you go into a course, is the Ally dashboard or the Ally accessibility report, is this activated in your Canvas navigation bar? What's the overall score? What are the easy fixes or the severe fixes, things like that. So definitely try this out, see which, check if you have access to the Ally configuration. What alternative formats are actually enabled, because you might want to find out and you might say, hey, I realize we don't have like tagged or OCR PDFs turned on. We need to turn that on. Or even the translated version. Ours is not turned on. And if you think it should be, you might want to talk to your administrators and see if that can be turned on. So all of this is really just kind of helping you to kind of create a workflow with your instructor or your course team. And that's what I use this for. The institution reports, it's really good to just say, okay, here's how your course looks. These are all the issues with it. And it creates a really good workflow so that you can work with your course team and then they can kind of remediate their courses and not just be kind of overwhelmed with what they need to fix. So yeah, that's definitely what I would recommend. I believe Alejandro put that in the chat right there. The last thing is I don't even think I showed you, which is probably the most important thing I should have showed you, is what let's let me go back to it really quickly. In that sandbox I have, in the course accessibility report here, this is kind of the main broad dashboard that you want to be looking at as an instructor. So it takes a minute to load. I did show this briefly, I think, but yeah, so this is where it shows all the assets in your course. This is my sandbox. It's only 65%. It's not good. Luckily, it's just a sandbox. You can see all the course content, all the different breakdowns of the different types of content. Right here where it says start with the easiest issues to fix. Easy is very relative. So sometimes when you click on this, it'll be like these PNG files. I can click on this individual one and just change the image description here and add it, or just say it's decorative, right? So this is definitely not decorative. I'll change it. But you can do these ones that are very easy. But sometimes you'll see these long lists right here, and sometimes they're not easy, but these are the easiest of the issues to fix. Going back to the overview, then you can see fix low scoring content. These are the ones that are the lowest, but they might be some of the hardest ones. So if they're image files, those are usually really easy ultimately, but you can see all the issues in here for the courses. And this is how it looks on that course level I showed you. So you can see images don't have a description, HTML content has images without a description, contrast issues. There's a lot of contrast issues I have in my sandbox, etc. And you can go through each one of these. So I can just click on any one of these and it'll show all the individual assets with that issue. So really this is the main dashboard that you want to be using in the individual course level to fix or diagnose the issues you might have. So yeah, so definitely check this out. And again, if you don't have this in there, get it activated, use this guide, practice yourself, use this for yourself to hopefully help you with remediating your courses or getting your course teams to do so. So yeah, any questions about anything else?
Yeah, Sean, I added the Ally to my dashboard on my side, but when I click student, it does not show. So what do I have to do to show the Ally for the student to make sure they get those arrows?
So you have Ally activated, but when you click on student view, it doesn't show it?
Well, it didn't show should it be in the menu on the side or no? For the student?
No, so I'm very glad you mentioned that. So good point. So when you add Ally in the navigation bar, it'll show up for administrators, but it does not show up for students. So students should not, again, like Ally should mostly be completely incognito for students. The only thing they should notice is that little icon for alternative formats. The dashboard, because we really don't want students to see, our accessibility score and, hey, look at all the issues with your course. So this is really for administrators. So even if you have it activated and it's listed, like I had shown on the course navigation bar, in student view, it'll be completely invisible. Yes, thank you for mentioning that, because I forgot to say that. Any other questions or comments?
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Sean. That was so informative. I was really just impressed with all of the functionality and like there are just some things that I didn't even know were possible with Ally. That was really great. Okay. So stay tuned because there's a little bit more that we still have to do with our fun meeting. We have a drawing. So yeah, so don't hang up yet. Stick with me here. So we're going to do a quick drawing for a course, an accessible course giveaway. By coming to this meeting, you get the opportunity to be entered in a drawing to have free access to WebAIM's training course. So I'm going to spin a wheel and hopefully everybody's listed here. I did my best to get everybody's name. So I'll quickly slow scroll. If your name is missing, please say something. Going once.
I notice you're not listed, Alejandra.
No, that's okay. I've already taken it twice. So I don't need it a third time. But thank you though for noticing that. That was very nice of you. Let's see. All right, ready? We're gonna click to spin. Wonderful, wonderful. Gulnora, I hope I'm saying that right. Are you here?
Yes, I'm excited. Hi.
Hi. So yeah, you just won yourself a free accessibility training course from WebAIM. Thank you so much for coming today and for everybody for coming today. We will connect with you. I hope I'm saying your name right. Gulnora?
Well, Nora is good. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, Gulnora.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we'll connect with you after the meeting to send you the link and the key to be able to get into that course.
Sounds
All right,
great.
and
Thank
then-
you.
Yep. And then last but not least, at 3 o'clock, we're going to have an open discussion about everything that we've talked about here, including any questions you might have about accessibility. Please start conversation in the accessibility channel. That's where all of our conversations happening for the digital accessibility liaisons, as well as the full accessibility conversation for the university. You're more than welcome to visit our website at accessibility.asu.edu or, message me or Kathy on Slack. And so if you need that, I'm going to drop my Slack in the chat. You could also reach out to Sean about his presentation. Sean, if you're more than welcome to drop your contact information if you'd like. And then Kathy's is KD Marks 1, isn't it? KD Marks, or is it KD Marks 1?
Just Katie Marks.
Yep. All right. That's it. So, well, thank you, everybody.